my god. It's Jason Bourne.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, wait, that's Mission Impossible.
Yeah, well, this movie was somewhat in the same vein as that, and we'll be reviewing it today.
Love it, yep.
The female Jason Bourne, a.k.a. Black Widow. Welcome in, randos, to the Fandom at Random podcast. I am Ed.
And I am Brian.
And we are back at it again with a back-to-back. We're going to have like a Marvel sandwich here.
Yeah, Marvel month.
Yeah, it's Marvel month, exactly. So we've got Black Widow random review today. We've got a random review next week of Season 1 of Loki, which we did a random reaction video a couple weeks back. Again, hop on fandomatrandom.com if you want to find all the ways to like and follow, listen, watch. You can go check that out before you see next week's episode. But this week, we are talking Black Widow. And
the one and only.
A quick random ramble, I should say.
Random rabble, baby.
Yeah, rabble works too, actually. So either one works. So before we get into our review of Black Widow, we've got the news at random, so we've got some fandom-related news we want to talk about. But quick question to you, Brian. So this is the first Marvel film to drop since the COVID-19 pandemic.
2 years almost.
I know. So
crazy to think about.
And, they had such a powerhouse train going.
Yep.
And it's ironic that they ended with Endgame and then boom, like pretty much into the pandemic. Not too long after that, we had a couple others, but how do you feel about them launching these films like side by side? So we're getting it on Disney Plus with the premiere access, plus you're getting it released in a theater.
Yeah.
How do you feel that's working? And do you think that's going to continue going forward, or are they going to ditch that? Because you know the theaters are pissed.
Right. Yeah, theaters are suffering because of it. And in that aspect, I don't like it. Because there's something about the theater experience for some movies that you can't beat, obviously.
Yeah, and I look at it, not to cut you off, but I look at it both ways. Because like as a dad, as a, I work shit ton of hours every week, and time is in short supply.
Of the essence.
In my life, at least, and I'm sure many, many others out there.
Yep. And
having that opportunity to, work, come home, kiss my son, put him to bed, say goodnight, and then literally day one be able to watch this film on my TV, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm hoping it doesn't go away.
Well, I was going to say, I think they're going to keep it that way. Whether the theaters can survive it or not, that's another problem for another day. I know horror fans in the horror community are going back to theaters every time they can. They love it. Seeing a horror movie in a theater, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
But like you and families and people who have, 2 kids, a wife, whatever, multiple families are loving
multiple wives.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the polygamy states out in the Central West.
They don't got time to go to the theater.
No, fuck no. Ain't nobody get time for that. But more options don't hurt. And I mean, I'm sure pirators, me and you, we don't dabble in that stuff.
Oh, of course
good
not.
law-abiding citizens, but I'm sure pirators love that it releases on streaming the same day.
Which, new sponsor to the podcast, randos, private internet access. If you're not using a VPN, download it, check it out.
Strictly for security purposes.
Just for security.
Only security.
Yeah, so I agree.
$30 is steep. It's weird because you feel like they should have an option for single people or people like me and Taylor, just a couple living with a dog, and not have to pay $30.
But keep in mind though, if you two were going to a movie, you're already pretty much paying that.
But you're not getting the big screen either. I mean, luckily Taylor surprised us with a way too big TV, so it's like we have a theater screen in our apartment.
And that's just it. Nowadays, not since everybody, but most people have giant 4K TVs. So I mean, you're getting a lot of that experience. So
it's still almost 2 IMAX tickets, though.
I'd be curious, Randos. Let us know what you think in the comments. Whether you prefer going to the theater still, or if you like having that ability day one to get this content right in the comfort of your own home.
All in all, curious. Yeah, both options are good for me because I love the theater, but if I don't want to go and I just want to watch something real quick, it's good to have it there.
And the beer's cheaper in my fridge.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get into some nerd news. Oops, we did it again. So the Random Reaper, Brian,
has struck again.
The Random Reaper is back. So we've got another Phantom Fatality this week.
Yeah.
Finish him.
And it looks like we Random Reap somebody again. So Richard Donner, famed director. He was the director of the original Superman, Lethal Weapon, and The Goonies.
The Goonies.
Which we literally just talked about on our podcast last week, talking about where we actually drafted movies for the drive-in movies. If you haven't checked that out, go back and listen. It was a fun Fandom Fighters battle.
Sure was.
Speaking of which, I didn't check. That poll should be done right now.
Oh, yeah?
I can hop on and see who won.
Oh, boy.
So you talk about Richard Donner for a minute.
So, I mean, that was, I don't know if you saw me tag you on Facebook, but the night I got home after that Phantom Fighters, I saw this. I was like, you have to be shitting me. Our death note has struck again.
We keep killing people, man.
It's a damn shame. Those three movies you just listed are some of my favorite movies ever, so to know we're responsible for it hurts a little bit, but at the same time, he was 91. It's not like we took him too soon.
Mother effer.
Mother effer.
You won.
Yes.
You won. It was narrow. 57% to 43%. Damn, a lot of votes, too. Randos, thank you very much for...
Got a lot of votes. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, so Brian, you narrowly beat me out with your list of drive-in theater movies. So.
It was Jaws. I know it.
Yeah, Jaws was the one I wanted. You suck.
Yeah.
All right, Phantom Fighters goes to you, my friend.
We're shaving your head.
We'll have to come up with some kind of something that you get. We'll talk about that more.
Yes.
But another Phantom Fatality sucks. Robert Downey Sr. just passed away. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr.'s father, at the age of 85, died of Parkinson's disease, which sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
But yeah, it's a bummer.
He was an amazing inventor, from what I hear. Oh, no, wait, that was Stark. Never mind.
So yeah, rest in peace. Definitely a bummer. Speaking of a bummer,
dude, yeah,
this
was
after
stupid.
we talked about Phantom Fatalities here, this had to be our top news thing. So we covered E3 a couple weeks back. You know, we talked about Xbox, Bethesda, PlayStation not being there, Nintendo,
Ubisoft,
and the big thing with Nintendo was, where's the Switch Pro? You know, it got hyped up. Everyone was like, all right, they're going to announce it. And then it never came. And we kind of attributed to, there's the microchip shortage. Maybe they still have something in the works.
Holidays,
exactly.
Who knows?
So literally,
none of that.
What is this, like 2 to 3 weeks after E3? They shadow dropped this news. So the new Switch model is coming out. And it's literally just called the Switch OLED.
They should have tried to sneak it in without anyone noticing. Like, we're dropping something, but please don't pay attention. Yeah, the Switch OLED, OLED.
So
because of the screen.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, an OLED screen is nice, but it's still a 720p screen.
And that wasn't the problem with the original Switch. The portable screen was good enough. Yeah. I'd say great enough. But it was the big screen and the docking and everything else that needed to be upgraded.
Docking's always the issue.
Yes.
Always the issue. Hashtag Pornhub. So it is now a 7-inch OLED screen, so the screen has been upgraded, but the CPU, all the internals have not been upgraded, so it's still going to top out at 720p.
Yeah.
Undocked, and then some games docked will get up to like 900p, maybe 1080p.
No sense, dude.
Now the new dock that comes with it has a wired LAN port. Yay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that should have been in there to begin with.
Yeah.
They upped the internal storage to 64 gigabytes, but who cares? Because you can just add a micro SD card.
They cost like $5 these days. You're really not hurting your wallet.
And again, no 4K, no Bluetooth.
Nope.
So you still can't use a freaking goddamn wireless Bluetooth headphones with this thing.
It's ironic how much they have jumped forward in technology while also still staying behind in other areas, because it is the best portable system out there. No doubt, no contest, best portable system out there. But at the same time, you don't have Bluetooth, which my laptop from 10 years ago has. Yep. And like you said, no upgraded hardware, no 4K. It's crazy.
No battery improvement.
Yeah.
You couldn't at least...
No new DualShocks.
Yeah.
The drift problems are still going to be
Yeah,
there,
with the Joy-Cons.
you know?
Yeah, they're awful.
Oh, Joy-Cons, yeah.
No, yeah. The people know what you meant.
Not the Dual Shocker.
So, and on top of that, it's launching at $349.
Yeah, that's fucking outrageous.
So, to me, this thing is dead in the water. Like, I entertained potentially getting a Switch Pro, if it launched that $300 to $400 mark, but this is there's really no benefits to me.
No.
There's none. And I mainly play docked, and there was zero benefit for me to buy this system.
Absolutely not. And they were still selling like hotcakes. So to put it out now didn't make sense anyway because they're flying off the shelves still. But there's no reason at all.
My conspiracy theory / what I believe to be true is that with the microchip shortage, and that's not slowing down, plus the trade wars are still full in fact, all this shit has been effed up from COVID-19.
Yeah.
We're seeing that now, shortages on everything. And my theory is that they were going to launch a Switch Pro type model this year. They looked at the market, they looked at everything going on and said, why do that when we can wait another 2 or so years and announce the full-on successor of the Switch?
Yes.
And to me, the Switch was so goddamn successful. Nintendo, do not F this up. You did it with the Wii into the Wii U.
Yes, they did.
Make the Super Switch.
They
go from Nintendo to Super Nintendo type model, make the Super Switch.
Hell yeah.
Give it, all the hardcore internals, let it get up to 4K.
Build a fleshlight into it. I mean, seriously, let's go fucking balls to the wall.
Hey man, they're Japanese.
Balls deep, I guess.
Japanese, they got a lot of those anime games too, so
that's what I'm saying.
I'm on board.
Realistically, if you've ever read the book Console Wars, it's about Sega and Nintendo going at it. You find out just how Nintendo does business, or just how Japan or China really does business, period. And that is right up their alley. Like, holding back on a new Switch model because they're already making money. Why fix something that's not broken? You're right. And hopefully they come out with the Super Switch and they don't F it up like the Wii U.
To me, name it Super Switch, give it everything I just talked about. It'll sell like hotcakes. But it's Nintendo. They won't do it.
No.
They won't do it. Let's flip the script and let's talk about Sony. Sony just had a state of play this week.
Yeah, I didn't even bother watching it.
It wasn't good.
I heard it was so bad.
Yeah, it really was not that good at all. I mean, there were a couple announcements here and there, but it was more just rehashing everything we already kind of knew.
Deathloop. We keep getting Deathloop. It's like the loop of Deathloop. We don't need to know more about it. You've showed us everything.
And it looks cool, but I mean,
nothing groundbreaking.
There was no like mic drop announcement, and a lot of people anticipated. They say, all right, Sony, this is what they do. They've segregated themselves from E3. They let Nintendo and Xbox have their day so that they can have their own day to do shit like this, and they completely missed the mark.
Yes.
So,
if you're going to go off on your own, you really need to drop some good shit every time, and they didn't come through on this one.
Yeah, so it's a weird time in the world with all of these shortages on, especially microchip products, and everything has been impacted with delays, slowing down. But I'm curious if a lot of them are kind of have I've got a feeling some of them do have a smoking gun that they're hanging on to going into the fall right before Christmas time drops.
Yeah.
So
they probably do. Or at the least, they'll drop a trailer for Ragnarok, God of War. But that wouldn't have the same hit of something coming out this year for the holidays.
Let's talk, let's flip the script. We talked about a lot of Marvel. Let's talk some DC news. I'm sorry, not DC news. We're going to...
I was going to say, wait, what?
Not DC news. Let's talk more MCU news. My bad.
So flip the script back over.
Yeah. So
we're back to Marvel.
A total 360.
Yes.
So Huge Jacked Man, also known as Hugh Jackman, a.k.a. Wolverine, he posted a couple photos on Instagram with the Marvel boss, Kevin Feige, and the internet kind of lost their minds. It was an image of him with the Wolverine claws, then him and Kevin side by side, like hugging it out.
Yeah.
And now instantly people are like, all right,
Cancel that. Boo this man.
So we know the MCU, Marvel, and by extension Disney, they reacquired the rights to Fantastic Four and the X-Men. It's a matter of time before they bring those properties back into the MCU umbrella. But, I mean, Hugh Jackman was pretty adamant that when he made Logan, that he was done with the character. So maybe he's coming back in almost like a consultant type capacity where he knew this character intrinsically so well.
Yeah.
He played it for so long. Maybe they wanted just to bring him in to kind of pick his brain and say, hey, these are some of the people we're considering casting. What do you think? What should we be looking for?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a smart move.
There's deaths in the MCU where you really need to finish it right then and there. There's other deaths where you can bring him back, like Quicksilver. That would have been easy. Wanda's brother,
now he's Ralph Boner.
Yeah, now he's Ralph Boner. But if you brought him back, that'd be fine because that death didn't matter that much. Hugh Jackman's death in Logan was like a final nail in the coffin of that saga. And to bring him back now would just be stupid. So hopefully he is in a behind-the-scenes role.
All right, well, last bit of news here. Fuck.
Roach.
The Witcher Season 2 drops on Netflix.
Yeah.
December 17th. So
yeah, not November.
Quite a bit later.
Yeah.
Quite a bit later than people were anticipating, but I do appreciate this because this means they're taking their time with it. They want to make it as good as possible. They also dropped the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
Looks good.
I haven't seen it yet. I have to check it out this week.
Geralt's heading back with Ciri to Witcher headquarters.
Yeah.
And you're hoping if it's going to follow the games into the Wild Hunt storyline that Ciri's going to be getting trained up. More badass.
The big thing, it's following the books more than the games.
It is, but it's still loosely going to follow that Wild Hunt storyline.
Yeah.
That's my assumption. But strangely, the trailer, not really no Yennefer at all. And
that's a damn shame.
It is a damn shame.
All those simps out there, they're going to be really disappointed.
But maybe they're tying in back to the end of season 1 where Yennefer just up and disappeared. So they really want to kind of hold those cards close to their chest as to what's going on with her. But
I could see that happening.
They're fated to be reconnected, so it's just a matter of time. But I'm excited.
Of course.
I'm excited. Henry
Can't wait to
Cavill
see it.
Kills that character. Kills in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. But, I'm pumped. That about covers the news at random. Brian, anything else fandom related that's been on your radar you want to talk about that I didn't jot down?
No, don't think so. We covered a lot of good stuff, and I'm excited to talk about this movie, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, let's go. Random review time. See if I can time this.
Yeah. You got it.
So welcome in to the Fandom at Random review of The Bourne Ultimatum. No, it's actually
The Bourne Widow.
The Bourne Widow. So we're going to talk about Black Widow. And this movie was a long time coming.
Yeah.
Delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic multiple times. And I should mention, randos, right out the bat, if you have not seen this film, we are going to talk spoilers.
Heavy spoilers.
We're going to talk, this is going to tie back into Avengers Endgame as well. So if you've not seen Endgame, you also are going to want to just, shut off, stop watching, stop listening. Go check that shit out, then come back and listen.
Shouldn't even be on the internet if you haven't seen Endgame, so that's on you.
So before we get into some of the plot points, and also we're going into this cold, so per usual, Brian consumed this content on his own. I consumed it on my own.
Yep.
We have not talked about this movie to one another. I have no idea what his thoughts are.
That's the way we like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my thing right off the bat is this film was delayed. But even though it was delayed, fans have been clamoring for a standalone Black Widow movie for years.
Yes.
Many years. And it is kind of bullshit that, Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, she is an OG Avenger.
Yeah.
And she never got her standalone film. You could say the same about Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye.
Yeah.
and to less an extent, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, but we got standalone Hulk films.
Yeah.
And then they retconned him in. But, you know, looking at this, my biggest issue off the bat with this film is the timing of the film when it was released. There is, like, it blows my goddamn mind that, you know, again, we mentioned there's going to be spoilers. They killed off Black Widow in Avengers Endgame. Now, you drop her standalone solo film, going back, building the character back up after that film. This movie 1000% should have been before Endgame to get people more involved with the character, give her more backstory, and build that character up into the untimely death in Endgame. The impact would have been so much more. And I don't know about you. I've got a huge issue with prequel content anyway. I hate prequel shit. Yeah. Because you already know what the end result is, and for me, it ruins everything.
So what they need to do in a situation like this, we already know she's not going to die or get hurt in this movie. So what you really need to do is get us invested in the other characters and put them in peril where we don't know if they're going to survive or what, and use that in order to get this prequel to work. They had so much potential to do that because the side characters in this movie honestly overshadowed Black Widow and Natasha. At least I thought so.
Yeah, I would agree.
And they could have used that to a bigger extent to make this prequel work after Endgame, and they did not. That's not. I'll drop it right now. I love this movie, so there's that. But that's one of their mistakes.
Interesting. So you love this movie?
Yeah. Okay. I liked it a lot.
Ooh.
Love is strong word.
Okay, this is cool. See, again, we have not talked about how we feel about this film.
Yeah, I have.
So you and I are going to be butting heads a bit, which I love.
So yeah, I agree with you on that point, though.
So this movie was pretty much this was hearkening back to Winter Soldier, which you and I talked about multiple times in this cast. Out of all the MCU movies, it's top 3.
Yes.
I don't even think that's an argument.
Yeah, if not the favorite for me, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Winter Soldier, it is a spy espionage, just dark film, not too much humor. They kept it just set more in realism, which they tried to do with this film to an extent.
Look at the intro alone. I mean, when they opened up that, you know.
So let's get right into the intro. And ironically, I shouldn't say ironically, but coincidentally, you hyping up the intro, this was my favorite part of the movie. Like, my favorite part of the movie is maybe the first 15 minutes.
One of my top 3 moments, definitely.
Yeah. You know, you get the very eerie take on Nirvana during the opening credits.
I love that song.
Which Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
Which it was cool.
A backdrop to like a child trafficking scene too.
Yeah.
So it fit.
But you get to see a young Natasha Romanoff with a family.
Who was apparently a boy when she was younger.
And yeah, she's got the dyed hair, you know, typical young girl tomboy.
Yeah.
And then her sister, who is younger than her and much more the girly girl, you know, falls, skins her knee, cries about it. The mother comes out.
Yep.
And then you also got to see, so their parents. So parents played by Rachel Weisz and David Harbour as Melina and Alexei. And it was pretty cool seeing, like, you know, David Harbour coming in. He's got the glasses on and saying, you know, we've got an hour. And because at first it seems like cookie cutter family.
Yes.
And then very quickly, it ain't cookie cutter family.
So I don't know if you've ever seen The Americans on FX.
Yes.
I love that show, and I was getting huge vibes from this. I'm like,
I can see that.
That's awesome. KGB, they're not a real family, but they look like the American Pie family. I liked it a lot. David Harbour looked like a friggin' geek, but getting the KGB spy feel right off the bat, right out of the intro, really worked.
And well, now you realize him looking like a geek was part of the cover.
Yes, yeah.
So it was all part of their deep cover because they were actually, you know, involved with the Soviet Union.
What I didn't expect was that they're not their real kids.
Yes, so that I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I thought, because they alluded early on that Yelena, so her sister,
yes,
the younger sister, was not their kid, but I assume that Natasha was their blood,
right?
And neither of them was.
Nope,
they were just placeholders.
Yeah, because in The Americans, they had biological kids, but, you know, they were still part of the whole thing. So, yeah, that was surprising.
And then, you know, you get to see that. They're rushing to the airport. They grab, like, minimal shit, hop in the car, and you do get to see that little family moment. What was it? The, you know, putting on American Pie.
Miss
American Pie.
Yeah.
And throwing that on the radio. But you can, like, Natasha knows, like, all right, shit's going down.
Yeah.
And then shit goes down. You know, they hop in the plane, the two girls, and then you get to see David Harbour's Alexei go out, and there's like a truck or something kind of blocking them.
Yeah.
And he just flips the thing out of the way, and I'm like, and instantly I'm like, okay, yep, super soldier.
Yes, exactly.
That was a cool moment. So, and I mean, I knew going into it, I was kind of familiar with Red Guardian anyway.
Yeah.
He's pretty much the Soviets version of Captain America.
Yeah.
So
definitely not Russia's ass, that's for sure.
So yeah, they get to go to escape, but I was curious where, you know, later in this film, like Alexei, and you see him in the prison and talking about his escapades.
Yeah.
That, you know, he seemed like kind of a more cold-hearted killer, like badass.
Anti-hero.
He was with that gun. He was purposely like not taking kill shots.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. That kind of like struck me as a weird thing. Like,
it was weird, especially because we got more blood and death in this movie than a regular Marvel movie, so it's not like they were holding off because of that reason, you know.
But they end up taking off. He grabs onto the wing. You know, Melina gets shot. They end up landing, and after they land, you know, enter Dreykov.
Enter light.
So Dreykov shows up, and him and Alexei apparently, you know, BFFs, whatever, and he lets them take his daughters away.
Yeah.
To the Red Room. Which, you know, we know is not a good place.
Yeah. It's not like the dungeon in 50 Shades of Grey, ladies. It's not that good at all.
So, yeah, at this point they go to the Red Room, and you end up getting that, like you mentioned. That's when the intro credits start, and you see that they get separated, and they're both being trained to become assassins.
Red Sparrow style.
Yeah, similar to Red Sparrow. But I don't know, man. I've got a lot of issues with this film.
So that's like a good intro. We get all that. That was a great intro.
And this to me I was engaged with a lot of this. I was like, okay, I could get on board.
And it's still sprinkled throughout the movie. It just doesn't keep that tone consistently from the beginning to the end, which was unfortunate, but I don't think it was as bad as you think it was.
Yep.
So, yeah, then we jump into the Marvel shit with all the special effects and
so
else.
it cuts into pretty much Marvel's Civil War era, and you know, half of the Avengers are on the run, Black Widow being one of them.
Yep.
And Natasha ends up bailing, and she goes on the run. But we got to see I'm looking up his name again real quick. So William Hurt reprising his role as Thunderbolt Ross.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which was interesting.
Yeah, because
you know, now they're retying in the original Hulk films, and we just mentioned in Shang-Chi that Abomination is going to show up in that movie.
That's right.
So, you know, it makes me, could we see, because if I'm not mistaken, Thunderbolt Ross becomes Red Hulk, correct?
I think so, yeah.
So we obviously know, you know,
Planet Hulk, maybe?
Well, they already quasi did that in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
So I'm curious to see if, you know, they're not going to bring him back into a film like this if they're not going to use him more in the universe. And he's a good actor.
That's one of those things where if you're going to use him, it's for a reason. It's going to happen down the line for sure.
So Natasha's on the run. She ends up meeting up with her contact to get all set up, secluded in the middle of nowhere. And then flipping the script, you get to see her sister all grown up with the other widows. So Yelena tracking down a former Black Widow, and they have a little scuffle. She ends up killing her, and she ends up getting gassed. And that's when you find out that, holy shit, like, they're all, like, being, like, super mind controlled.
On, like, a molecular level, I think she said. Something like that. Unlike Natasha, they actually had their brain chemistry mixed up.
Yeah, so the original Red... I keep wanting to say Red Sparrow. The original Red Room, when they were making their widows with Natasha, it was more psychological. So they would beat them down, you know, psychologically brainwash them. Now it's on a physical and psychological molecular level that we see later in the film, full on goddamn control over them.
Yes.
They can literally say, okay, hey, you, stop breathing. And they will stop breathing until they die. That was one of
the most terrifying scenes in the movie when the pig stopped. I'm like,
it was awful.
Let him breathe. God damn it.
Breathe.
Live, damn it, live.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's bad. So she ends up getting those red vials and ends up mailing them to Natasha, unbeknownst to Natasha.
Yes.
So Natasha ends up going back into town. Generator runs out of gas. And lo and behold, car gets blown the F up. And we get to see Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Which I'm a huge Taskmaster fan. If you're listening, if you've played the original Spider-Man game that came out on the PlayStations, you know, Taskmaster was awesome in those games.
And people were looking forward to him in this movie because of that game.
Yep.
And by God, what a disappointing Taskmaster.
That's why, dude, I was...
It's not
hugely disappointed.
It didn't mean as much. I'm not as much of a Marvel fan, so it didn't mean as much to me as some other people, which is why it didn't ruin the movie for me. But it was disappointing nonetheless.
Yeah, and I have, honestly, and again, spoilers, randos, I have zero issue with the gender switch, like flop, over to making him a woman. It's completely how they used him in this film. And again, a lot of this film for me was starting out with potential, like good potential on a lot of these things that were just squandered as the film went on, riddled with plot holes. And the Taskmaster fight with Natasha right off the bat, she's in the car, she ends up dragging herself out, and then they have the quick bout, and then immediately you can see the mimicry with the moveset. You know, they're going back and forth. You know, the classic Black Widow where she jumps and she does that crab flip, you know, grabbing the neck and then she turns him and then he does it back to her and they get up the same way and they're mimicking. You don't see that again the entire goddamn movie. Yeah. And that's the whole thing with Taskmaster is he mimics fighting styles.
There's a scene where he's watching, I guess we should call him they're watching.
Yeah.
Footage from Civil War in order to learn more fighting moves, but it's a quick cut scene. Like you see it really quick, you may not even notice it. But other than that, not really. No. Towards the end, we might see a little bit of it, but other than the scene with Natasha, we don't see much of it.
It's just so tough too when you have, you know, they made Taskmaster out to be the big bad in this. I mean, ultimately it was Dreykov, but I mean, he was.
The overarching theme is bad men, controlled women. So I think Dreykov was meant to be the enemy the whole time.
Sure.
But we could have had a breakout role, especially because I was just looking it up. It's Olga Kurylenko. I think that's how her name's pronounced. She's a great actress. She was in James Bond, some other movies. So they could have used her voice. They could have used her acting ability to enhance Taskmaster. And they fucking muted her.
And the fact, and you know, the whole thing is, they're muting her because you want to keep that reveal that it was, you know, I keep wanting to call him Alexei.
Yeah.
But that's David Harbour's character. Dreykov.
Dreykov's daughter.
It was Dreykov's daughter the entire time.
Which I guessed that from the beginning.
She's wearing a mask. You put voice modulation over the voice and then it's done.
Absolutely.
And it would have been so much because, you know, Taskmaster in the comics and all this cocky, like, overly confident,
charismatic,
but great banter going back and forth.
People argue that besides Loki, Taskmaster could have been the most charismatic character in the universe,
and there was nothing. He was a robot.
Yes,
or I'm sorry, she was a robot.
She was a robot, and the twist was very predictable.
Oh yeah.
Once we heard the backstory about Natasha and the daughter, I looked over at my brothers. I'm like, watch, Taskmaster is Dreykov's daughter. Calling it right now.
But. So getting back to the somewhat timeline of the plot, so Natasha ends up meeting up with her sister again after escaping Taskmaster with the vials. So she meets Yelena. They have a little spy fight, which I don't know why. Again, a lot of moments in this film like just happened and they never explain them.
Yeah.
The only thing I can gather is, they haven't seen each other in what, over 2 decades?
Something like that, yeah.
And they're both high-profile spies, so maybe, I don't know.
I think it was like, it tied into the you left me behind. You forgot about me. You left me. I think Yelena was pissed and just had a little bit of fun beating the crap out of her sister.
And why did she send her the vials? I mean, I understand she made the comment, like, you're an Avenger. I thought you could, like,
you must
do something with them.
You must not have a brother, right? You have a sister, so it's opposite sex.
And that...
You just want to kick the shit out of your sister.
And that was a huge, like, plot issue for me, too. So, like, these vials that can literally take away this, molecular mind control that Yelena was under for so long... She trusted like UPS to like deliver these things.
Well,
to Budapest.
I can buy that because you would think more secretive spy delivery services were being watched. It's kind of like hide in plain sight. That's how I explained it away.
I don't know, man.
If I was gonna send, dude. With Amazon Prime out there, UPS sucks. You could send anthrax through the mail and they wouldn't even catch it.
So we need Jeff Bezos to get on delivering anti-mind control.
Yeah, we need the drones back. So yeah, see, it's a Marvel movie, so those little details didn't bother me in the least bit because you could pick apart almost every Marvel movie like that.
Oh, I do.
Yes.
That's my thing, man. I pick apart every movie, and I was able to pick this movie apart but a lot more than most.
And I'll tell you what, the characters saved it. If not for the characters and the actors and actresses playing them, I would have hated it a lot more.
So we just mentioned she met up with, again, adult, her sister, which technically by blood isn't her sister, but, family has nothing to do with blood. If Vin Diesel taught us anything.
Family. And it's played by Florence Pugh, who is amazing. She was in Fighting with the Family, the biography of Paige the Wrestler. She was in Midsummer, one of my favorite horror movies.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Fucked up movies. And something else. She was in a TV show on AMC. Anyway, she's one of the better rising stars right now. So the future they set up for her in the MCU, I'm super psyched about.
Well, she, we can kind of talk about these characters that come up, but
yeah,
Yelena to me was one of the shining things of this film.
Absolutely, she overshadowed Natasha by a lot.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson, don't get me wrong, she was great as the Black Widow for so many years as Natasha. This felt super phoned in. Her entire performance in this movie, and this was supposed to be her swan song, her standalone film. It felt phoned in, man.
It did.
I thought, like you mentioned earlier, like the other actors overshadowed her,
which it was probably a decision after it got delayed. Like, listen, we have to change directions. We're playing it after Endgame, after 2 years of no releases. Now we need to set up a future with another character.
Sure,
but it worked because Florence Pugh killed that fucking role.
I liked it. I liked her in that role.
I didn't hate that direction they took, especially because she has so much more charisma and personality than Natasha ever did.
Yeah.
When she's talking about the pose, you're a poser. Yeah. Oh, and she didn't. She's like, oh, no, that's gross. I hate it. She just was amazing. I loved watching her.
I like the jacket. Lots of pockets.
So many pockets, right? It was amazing. And then David Harbour on top of it.
He was great.
Red Guardian.
He was great.
Between the two of them, they could have done anything with this movie, and I still would have enjoyed it.
And Red Guardian, the huge issue I had with him, he was criminally underused.
Yeah.
And more so the fight scenes.
The fight at the end was so disappointing.
Sucked.
Yeah. They kept cutting away. Like, if we could have seen him just one good, no bullshit fight scene, I would have been happy about that.
But we didn't get any of that. So,
yeah, unfortunately.
Again, this to me, that sums up this film. It's a film of what could have been. But let's get back to, so again, the twin widows, they meet up. They end up getting ambushed by the brainwashed widows. They have to make a run for it. And they know Taskmaster's on their trail as well. And we get to see that kind of effed up scene where there's that one widow that So you mentioned, or I may have mentioned Vin Diesel earlier. I was getting Fast 9 vibes from this film, man, with how over the top some of the action was. Like when they're hanging on to that rafter thing and coming down, what?
I mean, in a movie universe that they lift an island from the fucking planet,
Yeah.
it's like Fast and the Furious started off grounded. So that's one thing.
So
Marvel just started off balls to the wall anyway.
Here's the issue. So the comparison that keeps getting made to this film is this is going to be the next Winter Soldier. Grounded in realism.
Yeah.
They went way past that.
I agree.
Winter Soldier was much more grounded.
Definitely.
Don't get me wrong. They still had the typical Marvel like superhero flair, but it was
honestly, without the last half an hour, it could have been. Because even up until then, I didn't think they were
like
too bad.
when you conveniently jump off a giant flying thing and there's just a parachute sitting right there ready for you.
Yeah, and you can like glide off all the falling pieces in the sky like fucking Mega Man or something. No. Until that scene, they did a pretty good job, and I could see it being the next Winter Soldier, but they did go a little overboard for sure.
So they get to see Natasha after that widow falls and breaks her spine. She literally the widow's forced to kill herself.
Yes.
And Natasha gets to see that, ends up realizing like, oh shit, like I gotta fix this shit. So they get together, Taskmaster's hot on their trail, and then you get the other bullshit moment of Taskmaster like blowing up the car that they're in. It flips 87,000 times, yet and they conveniently slide down into a subway, yet they're perfectly fine. And
yeah, but I mean, come on, and Samuel L. Jackson didn't die in The Winter Soldier from the same thing happening to him.
Yeah.
It took, 7 50 caliber rounds to put him in a hospital bed. You know what I mean? So, again, that's something that didn't bother me as much.
It's a superhero movie. Maybe I'm being too critical.
I think maybe a little bit. Yeah, because usually you're critical, but that's kind of stuff that you definitely overlook in a superhero movie.
I'm just looking, I keep my kind of my scale on this is the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
That is what I wanted going into this film.
I didn't go into it like that. Maybe that's why I didn't hate it as much.
It just went way more over the top Marvel than I think it had to. I would have preferred more dark and gritty, but whatever. Yeah. That's my tomato.
You're absolutely right, though. Yeah.
So at this point, they decide they need to go break out their dad once they escape because they need to find out where the hell the Red Room is. He's the only one. You get to see Alexei, again, David Harbour's Red Guardian in jail. He's getting all tatted up.
Yeah, right. He plays like a Russian thug really well, but has the humor down pat too. Usually it's one or the other. Nope, not with David Harbour. Excuse me.
Yeah, which is again why I thought he was going to kill it as Hellboy, and that was not his fault.
Nope,
that was not his fault.
Everything else but him.
Yeah, but I thought he did a great job in this film. I love the scenes of him he's getting all tatted up, barely paying attention while he's just decimating Super Soldier.
Right.
Just decimating people in arm wrestling. Talking about him and like, and there he was. And then they're all like, Captain America. We went blow for blow.
You always tell the same story. Boom! I tell it again. Whatever he says, that was fun.
So he was great in that role. And
throughout the whole movie, he never failed to deliver.
So then we get that, the jail, the prison break scene where they fly in with the helicopter.
And he can't climb the wall of it. And they look down and they're like, oh, he's not going to make it. We have to go somewhere and pick him up.
And then you get to see Natasha jump down and she does the classic pose. Yeah, and then instantly Elena's like, oh, there it is again.
Oh, the pose. Jesus.
So, again, that whole scene was a little bit more ridiculousness going on. They're shooting at the chopper. She ends up taking like a missile launcher and causes a fucking avalanche.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They end up bailing him out last minute. So whatever. Again, Marvel film. Suspension of disbelief. So they end up, they take him, and I thought it was funny too. They have like the plane ride, and they kind of like comedically glossed over like one of like the big things, like one of the things that people had issues with back in I think it was Age of Ultron, when Black Widow brings up the fact that she was
Budapest.
No, not even like when she brings up the Red Room and the fact that like her ovaries, like all of her reproductive organs were ripped out.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then she made the comment like, I'm a monster like you.
Yeah.
To like the Incredible Hulk, which like pissed a lot of people off because
rightly so.
Because not being able to have a child does not make you a fucking monster.
I mean, hey,
like
look what we found out about Joss Whedon. Kind of makes sense now.
Yeah. So, and whatever. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, whole
but
other argument.
But they have that similar conversation in the plane, and because he's like, "Oh, what, do you on your period or something?"
It was.
And she's like, "No, Dad. Like, all of our organs have been ripped out." But it was like a joking scene. I was like, "Huh." Like they could have had an opportunity to like make this a bit darker, but
yeah.
There were a couple times like that I felt like they went for the joke instead of, again,
so
I'm comparing Winter Soldier to Black Widow.
It was definitely humor heavy where they could have let, like the moment where Yelena is sitting on the floor in the bedroom and David Harbour, Red Guardian, goes in to comfort her and talk to her, make her feel better.
Starts singing.
Yeah. That moment could have dragged on for at least another minute or two to get the emotion like squeezed out of it. Instead, he starts singing and the humor comes back almost instantly.
Yeah, and then the darts, like one, oh, that's nothing. I was honestly thinking like Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls.
Right. It could have been...
Hey!
I would have liked it better if he took like a 50 cal bullet. Like, oh, shit, make it serious, you know?
Yeah. But let's get right into that scene like you just mentioned. So at this point, it's very apparent, like Alexei, Red Guardian... He's a dummy. He was LeBron. He doesn't know shit. He's like, we need to go find the brains, which was his fake wife, their fake mother, Melina.
The pig worshipper.
Yeah, so you get to see that effed up scene with the pig, which was awful. I was like, oh God, no. Yeah. Please, no. Let him breathe. Let him breathe.
Do it.
Luckily, Nicole didn't watch this film with me because she would have been like screaming.
Yeah, I'm like, what are they doing?
So... they end up meeting up with their mother. The mother's very cold, but by the end of it, like they have that quote unquote quasi family reunion
at the table,
and you can see by the end, as much as Alexei and Melina want to believe that those 3 to 4 years meant nothing with those two kids, it did, and. Alexei even admits, like, afterwards, like, when they took the girls, he cried, he sobbed, like, he was miserable. And you can see it affecting Melina, too, to the point that she ends up helping them.
This part actually surprised me. I didn't see it coming. Yeah.
So she ends up, she even tells Black Widow, saying, hey, I'm sorry, I alerted the Red Room. They'll be here any minute.
Be here any minute.
And that's when they hatch their little plan.
Yeah.
With, the face-off
the
plan.
Technology. Wasn't it used in Civil War before?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they end up they get taken by the Red Room, all 4 of them, and they get taken up to the gigantic floating fortress. How the hell does nobody know this thing is there?
So I wrote it off again as he mentions that he has all the world's superpowers in his pocket, basically.
Okay.
Or at least most of them, because my brother said the same thing. I'm like, well, if you have all the presidents and rulers of the countries on speed dial, then you can pretty easily avoid putting planes on its radar or messing with flight routes to get around it. And if it's high enough up, nobody's going to see it anyway.
So question. How the fuck does S.H.I.E.L.D. not know about this?
Well, that's one thing.
As connected as this guy is, and as much as he has his influence and whatever, especially whether he's blatantly like sending out brainwashed widows to assassinate people and manipulate things.
Infiltrated. That's how.
How was Natasha's character, how did she not have any idea that the Red Room and all this shit was still going on?
Yeah.
As connected as she was with the Avengers.
Was this before or after S.H.I.E.L.D. got destroyed by Hydra?
Technically after.
Okay.
But she was still hooked up with, Avengers and I don't know, man. That's again, suspension of disbelief, but I don't know. So
that's a disadvantage of putting it out after Endgame, waiting to release it.
So they end up getting sent there, and then you mentioned the old switcheroo. So you see what we perceive to be Melina reporting back to... I always forget this guy's name.
Dreykov.
Yeah, reporting back to Dreykov, and you see Dreykov is like creepy, just...
Real, like... You can tell what they were going for because he came off as like that weird pedo dude, like the molester, almost right away.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I was getting what kind of vibes? I don't even know. I'm just gonna. Well, let's go with Bill Cosby.
Yeah, that one too.
Getting some Cosby vibes.
White Bill Cosby.
hey, suck on this pudding pop and become a widow.
Some pudding
So
in my pocket.
But yeah, he came off as the creepy, power-tripping, old, powerful white dude.
Yes.
Which I think is what they wanted.
Yeah.
So, and then ultimately, he sees through the ruse. She deactivates the face thing.
I was like, oh, shit.
And that's when you realize, and, you know, we got another good David Harbour scene as Red Guardian, like, talking to what he thought was Natasha and actually, like, bearing from his heart, like, telling her how he felt, like, you know, I wept on the day you were taken. I regretted it every day.
And then the humor comes back right away again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what was it? He was like, we are both going to die here. And she's like, I can get us out of here in two seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that.
And I love, too, after that, you know, the earpiece that Melina has.
That one was
and
good.
then he's, like, holding his ear, and he's trying to, like, have a heart-to-heart. And she's like, you don't have an earpiece.
Why don't I have earpiece?
I only had two.
The humor was more hit than miss for me, but it's a shame that they couldn't have dialed it down a little bit to make it hit harder.
Yeah. I and that was my feeling as well. But David Harbour with the humor killed it. But I would have I don't want to say preferred, but they needed to give him. They missed on the scene with Taskmaster.
Yeah,
that should have been his badass scene.
It really.
That's when he should have been like, you know, Red Guardian. And just, you know, kicked his ass.
Yeah, just show us
her ass.
Why he was Red Guardian, because he's a badass and he can handle himself.
And then again, he's been in jail for a decade or two.
Yeah,
so, which again, I'm mentioning plot holes and things they don't mention. They never mentioned why. Why did Dreykov, why did he betray him and send him to jail?
Yeah.
You know, apparently he was still, at that time, he looked to still be loyal.
Yeah.
Why did he have him locked away?
That's right.
You know, why would you lock away a super soldier?
Don't know.
So
that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't realize that part.
But this is where all the shit kind of starts hitting the fan, literally.
Yeah, this ending was like my biggest complaint about the movie.
So you have Natasha and Dreykov in the room. Natasha goes to attack Dreykov. She realizes she can't do it because Dreykov smells too good. She's like, ooh, boy.
He smells like Teen Spirit, I guess you could say.
Oh, shit. She's like, oh, is that Axe body spray? Right? I can't hit you.
It's the Axe for me.
So, because of pheromones, ladies and gentlemen, back to the science.
All she has to do is sever the nerve, bro.
So, and that was another thing.
Again, the last 20 minutes,
she
half an hour.
antagonizes him into punching her in the face, hoping that he will break her nose. So then she will no longer be affected by the pheromones that he's giving off, and she'll be able to then kill him or kick his ass.
Yeah.
But she ultimately takes matters into her own hands when she realizes this guy's a little bitch.
He's a little bitch.
She smashes her own face into the desk, which was actually pretty badass.
Yeah.
I would love, like, if they made, like, if there's, like, an edit scene or whatever, how funny would it have been if she does that and knocks herself out cold? And then the movie just ends there.
It's
like, ooh.
Cut to black, and that's it.
So, and at this point, you know, we mentioned Alexei is fighting Taskmaster and losing. Melina is trying to hack the ship, but at this point, that ain't going according to plan. So she ends up pivoting and ends up blasting an engine. It breaks the entire fan, and she's like, "Oh, and by the way, the ship is going to crash in about 3 minutes."
It's like it's just like that guy in Armageddon. You know how we fix in Russia? Bink, bink. You just blow it up and hope it works.
And then she slipped a knife to Yelena, so Yelena's able to escape because they're going to do some serious brain surgery on her.
This is so not a fun way to die.
Again, she killed that role.
So good, yeah.
So all that shit goes down, and also we're skipping over one of the biggest plot points. This is when Natasha is told by Dreykov and shown that Taskmaster actually was his daughter.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that's haunted her for her entire life, is that she gave them the go-ahead to blow them up. And again, they never told us how they survived that. They could have spent a 20-second scene.
They didn't explain Dreykov, but they explained the daughter. He's like, I had to rebuild her and put a microchip in her head in order to survive.
I want to know how we literally watched that entire building get blown up.
Yeah.
And taken down. So it's like, at that point, like,
it
makes no sense. Like, it would have made so much more sense, like, if all of a sudden, like, because they showed Natasha, do you have eyes on the target? How cool would it have been, like, if Dreykov had the foresight to know he was being watched, and that window was actually just a, like, pretty much like a movie screen, like an image.
Yeah.
And they were never there to begin. Like, as soon as, like, the daughter goes in, he instantly grabs her, and they go down to, like, a safe room or something like that.
Yeah.
And
a little quick flashback would have helped, definitely. But, I mean, we've seen it so many times, though. It's like, at this point, I didn't even notice it because it's always just, oh, there's a trapdoor, or they ran out the back, or they got pulled from the rubble by the Russians.
So to me, if I was going to do it, the way I would have written it, take notes, Marvel.
Yeah. Hope you're listening.
I would have had them hunting the assumption that they were going after Dreykov the entire time. And I would have also implemented my earlier thing with having, the masked Taskmaster being, like you said, charismatic, having him like talking during fights, and having him be a thorn in their side the entire film. And then when she finally goes there to meet up with Dreykov, it's just Taskmaster. And then she takes the helmet off and she's like, you killed my father.
You'd have to rewrite the story, though, because unless, like you said, you come up with a better plan on how they survived the explosion. Because if she has to be rebuilt with a microchip, she's not going to have charisma or be able to talk like the personality we need from Taskmaster. You know what I mean?
Oh, that would have been so easy to do. You could have had, and again, they made the Dreykov character completely irredeemable by the end of the film with showing what he did, but you could have retconned and shown none of that. Instead, you could have had him anticipating the blast going off, him shielding her from the majority of it, having him die, and having her still get effed up. But the fact that he was still so hooked up and influential that the people around him kept the organization going, and then implemented those cybernetics into her, and then she took shit over. Yeah. That's how I would have written it.
Right.
But again, I guess I'm not one of these smart bigwigs working for Marvel.
It's not why you make the big bucks, brother.
So we see all that shit happen. Taskmaster gets locked away. Natasha ultimately lets him out. They have another quick little battle. And what am I overshadowing here? We also have all the widows coming in, Natasha fighting them.
So,
and then her sister throws
Natasha gets her big moment where she's the master manipulator. She works Dreykov until she gets the big answer that apparently you control one of the most powerful pieces of equipment in the sky that controls all the superpowers in the world from one panel with no backup.
And he conveniently showed her how it works.
Like a thumb drive to hold all your info. Ring. Nothing.
He showed the ring and said, it's as easy as that. This is my master plan.
It was typical
bonehead villain.
I had to reach a little bit to justify that one. I'm like, well, he was so arrogant that he didn't care. But that was definitely a reach.
All right, we'll move things along here. So at this point, all that shit happens. All of the widows get their full, free will back, which is great.
Yeah.
Yelena ends up going out onto the deck. You see, at that point,
Yelena.
Yelena she runs up to the helicopter, which Dreykov is getting on. She takes that staff.
Yep.
Black Widow's like, no! Ends up blowing that fucking plane up.
See, if we got a better scene right there, it would have been a lot better. Like where we actually thought she could have died for a second, but everybody was getting ready to fly through the air anyway, so.
So she ends up, Natasha, I should say, ends up jumping off of this helicarrier thing, grabs the convenient backpack, and then has...
You don't always keep parachutes out on the outer platform of a flying Skyforcer.
Ends up having the crazy parkour, going through all the falling debris and this or that, trying to save her sister, all while Taskmaster is still jumping down towards them.
Yes.
And she does end up saving her, and then realizes Taskmaster ain't going to stop, so she lets go. Mm-hmm. They fight it out. Taskmaster shoot goes off. Then
Parkour.
They have their little ground battle again, Natasha versus Taskmaster, one last time, which, I don't know, it was very just... Not a great fight, not a great choreographed fight.
Definitely.
And again, it just pissed me off because the whole thing with Taskmaster is the mimicry, the fighting styles, this or that.
We got a little of it.
You got a little of it because we saw he was watching the Avengers. You got a little bit of Cap with the throwing of the shield. Yeah. You got Hawkeye where he was using the bow.
So we got a tiny bit, but we didn't explore it enough.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
So ultimately ends up getting the mask off, gasps her, and brings her back. He says, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then
she still doesn't talk.
Yeah, nope. So at this point, it's the end of the film. And another thing I kind of scratched my head on here, literally. So all of the widows now, they're climbing into that, get to the chopper.
Yeah.
Red Guardian, Melina, Natasha's sister, they're all, and they take Taskmaster.
Yep.
They all get in the plane and they're like, okay, we're going to go get safe. And then Natasha's like, I'll stay. I'll stall them. Why? Why are you stalling? There's a fucking plane right there. Like, you can't fit one more person in the goddamn plane?
Didn't she have a line or two before about how she needs to face what, like, this was why she was running to finish unfinished business, and now she needed to face the consequences of what she's done? Or am I making that up in my head?
I mean, maybe, but
it was loose, but
in any case, I mean, with what she knows, she got that data on the rest of the Red Room. She knows that there are other agents or sleeper agents out there in the world. She has all of their identification now to try to track them down.
But Infinity War is coming.
Dude, you nailed it.
Yeah, no,
you nailed it.
Everything
Everything in this film, the amount of plot armor they gave to Natasha Romanoff in this film is just disgusting.
Which, see, I guess the whole reason it didn't bother me is because I don't think this was a Black Widow movie. Even though it was called Black Widow, this was a set up new characters for Phase 4 movie.
Which is also disgusting to me because she did the character that she built throughout the original MCU film. She is one of the OGs.
I just never liked her. Like, I've never enjoyed her character enough to really be like, she needs a solo movie anyway.
Yeah.
But they were coming out with it, so I was like, all right, let's watch it. And between David Harbour and Florence Pugh, I left highly satisfied.
Yeah, it should have come out before Endgame.
Yes, I can agree with you there. Yeah.
So you get there's pretty much two end scenes. So you get the end scene where she meets up with her contact through the black market, ends up giving her that jet, which is the same jet that we see in... Is it in Civil War, or is it the one after...
Infinity War, I think.
Or Infinity... No, is it in... No, it's not Infinity War, is it?
Isn't it when Cap, Black Widow, and... the two of them show up for Wanda and Vision, no?
Well, it's when she goes to that prison to break everybody out.
Might have been Civil War.
That might be late Civil War.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think it's late Civil War.
It could be.
And in any case, it leads into that, and it's like, okay, we know where it's going.
Yeah.
Again, Infinity War. Endgame.
Yeah.
That's all they were alluding to. It's like, just let's get this fucking film over with.
We need to get this out there.
So, and then you get the second end credits scene.
Yes.
So, in this one, it flashes to her grave.
Yep.
So we get to see Natasha's grave.
Spoiler, if you've been listening this long.
We get to see Natasha's grave, and again, Yelena is over it. You can tell she's sad, she's grieving. And then who shows up? Valentina.
Yeah, that was
blowing her nose.
Surprising. I was hoping for an Avenger. I was hoping for Cap or like Hawkeye. Or something. I mean, I guess we did see Hawkeye.
So you get Valentina showing up, and again, we've seen her now. So they're, Marvel, the MCU, Disney, they know what they're doing. They got to have the crossovers with everything. So they're bringing in the Falcon Winter.
No idea who it was,
So the Falcon Winter Soldier, we got to see this character Valentina again when we got to see the fake Captain America, which
anti-hero Captain America,
yeah, anti-hero Cap. So we got to see her then, and now we see her, and she's like, hey, I got a job for you, whatever, yada, yada, it's personal. And I like Yelena's like, well, I want a raise.
Yeah.
But she gives gives information. She's like, here's the information on your sister's killer, the man responsible, and it's Cliff Barton.
That really bothered me.
Hawkeye himself.
Bullshit.
So, and I'm like, that's fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, because never mind, like Natasha Romanoff was directly responsible for like saving and bringing humanity back. And like the Avengers, they would have been public about that anyway.
Right.
And especially too with even the limited time that Natasha and her sister had together, she talked about how much like Cliff meant to her.
Yeah.
And like all the escapades they went on, this or that. So now they're ultimately, to me, they're setting up Dark Avengers. So
yeah,
you know, you're gonna
they
have Dark Cap.
Weird group,
now you've got Dark Black Widow.
Yes.
And it's
White Widow, technically.
Yeah, technically. Yeah. And there's no question that we get the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus that comes out later this year.
Yes.
They're going to go ahead. They're going to reintroduce Yelena into that. I'm sure she'll be a prominent character. Mm-hmm. And they'll bridge that into making her she'll become the new Widow.
Yeah, exactly. And that we all knew, we were all seeing that happen, but it's still so stupid because somebody like Yelena in the universe isn't going to look at that picture and be like, I'm going on a blind revenge mission to get him, because it doesn't take a fucking genius to know that Natasha loved this guy a lot and that he didn't purposely kill her or anything like that. So
yeah, so
I saw all the bullshit coming down the line and I was like, all right, that end scene sucked.
And that was my 2 cents on and that pretty much ends the film, but that was kind of my feeling on the general film is like, I just felt like first off, I think this film was absolutely hurt by the fact that it was delayed for over a year.
Yeah.
You know, it was delayed significantly because of the pandemic. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? What happens when a film like this gets delayed? The editors get to go buck wild.
And it takes longer for it to come out.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. But I mean, honestly, that you just kind of echoed how patronizing it is that they made me feel watching this film with some of the stuff they were just shoving down my throat. But
yeah.
I think the editors, they had an entire year plus to now look at this film, and I think they just went in and snipped and snapped and cut things up. And because you mentioned too, like the especially noticeable during the Red Guardian and Taskmaster fight,
yeah,
and a couple other points in this film, I'm like, they over-edited this
shit. It wasn't as
way
bad
too much.
as Batman vs. Superman, but it was there. You could see that they edited a lot on the cutting room floor. But overall, I would never call this a flawless movie. The reason I loved it isn't because it's a great movie. It's because the characters alone were enough to carry this movie. And it left me hopeful for the future of the MCU as far as the characters we can get coming down the line. And I think that made up more than enough for the flaws that they had in the storyline and the releasing of it after Endgame and all that good stuff. So,
all right, let's get into our random review scores. I'm going to let you kick things off, and then I'll bring this thing back to earth.
All right. I'm not going to go super high. You know, I'm realistic.
No, you go with your heart. Whatever you felt about this, you know,
so
you do. Don't let me influence
When I said I loved it, I even mentioned it at the beginning. That was going a little too far. I liked it a lot, and there were some flaws. So I'd still, 1 out of 10, go with an 8.5 out of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, so I wouldn't go much higher. 8.5 out of 10.
And that's a little high even for me, but I liked it enough to where that's a good rating where I'm happy with.
I can respect that. So pretty much with your 8.5, that would put it at the, I would say, beyond middle ground of all of the MCU films.
Yeah, I think, dude, Captain Marvel, Thor 2, Iron Man 3, all of those fall below Black Widow, and there's a lot more that fall below Black Widow. So, yeah, 8.5 sounds really good.
So I'm a little different than you. I'm at a 6.5.
Ooh, I thought it was going to be worse the way you talked about it. So
yeah,
that's not terrible.
I'm at a 6.5. I put it below the average Marvel film. Like you said, it's no Thor 2, The Dark World. It's no Iron Man 3 to me.
We never reviewed Captain Marvel. Would you put that above this?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would.
Okay, see, no matter anything you've said throughout this review, I can at least accept. But that one, fuck you! That's just bullshit. Captain Marvel sucked,
It did not suck.
Oh, it sucked. It was terrible. It was so bad.
It really didn't. I think Captain Marvel got a lot of undue criticism.
I think it was very much due.
I think a lot of that was on the back of like Brie Larson hate that for whatever reason is like rampant on the internet.
Yeah, you know me,
and
dude.
a bunch of basement dwellers were just shitting on that fucking movie.
I can remain unbiased about that shit. I hope you would know that about me, and I still didn't like that movie. They had almost the same flaws. They overused the 90s music. They overused the political stances
it was set
and shit.
It was set in the 90s.
Yeah, but you still like it was bad how much they use that music, Anyway, but wow. Anyway.
Yeah, so I'm at a 6.5. Like I said, if I had to kind of roundabout where I'm placing this, again, movies I think that, again, Thor 2.
Yeah.
Iron Man 3. I mean, it was better than those type of films. I mean, I would probably put this around Age of Ultron. That's exactly what I was going to say. Mm-hmm. So I'm right around that with my ranking.
See, and I would have given Age of Ultron like a 7.5, 8, but the characters in Black Widow were better. So 8.5 makes sense to me. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that about covers it. Brian, anything else before we start signing out here?
No. Think we covered pretty much all of it. I did record a podcast last night with the old 8-bit movie review.
Oh, yeah. 8-bit boys.
We're talking about Werewolves Within. It's a Ubisoft movie, actually. We were just talking about them at the beginning. So that'll be coming out soon. Keep an eye out for that. We'll post links. It was a good cast. It was fun. Yeah.
Nice.
So
can't wait to hear it.
I'm sure you can't. We kept that out of the loop on this one. Give Brian the time to shine.
There you go. All for the better. All for the better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, randos, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We will be back next week.
As always.
With more Marvel madness.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Loki. I'm liking it. All right, randos. We'll catch you later. Peace out.